Hey guys, Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Hell of a Summer. Now, this movie is directed by the main actor, who is the lead actor, I believe, in Stranger Things. I believe he's the one directing at the helm of this. I've not seen any trailers for it. I just sort of saw it pop up, so I figure maybe not many other people are reviewing this one in particular, so I figure why not, throw a bone to a new director and review something of that caliber. Whether they see it or not, whatever. Anyway, this is Hell of a Summer, and I'm here to review it as objectively as possible. So, the movie starts off with a 24-year-old man going to work at a summer camp. His name, I think, is like Jonathan or something like that. But our pretext for this is that two camp counselors are killed at the offset of our little movie here. And as they work him back to the camp, the mom is complaining about how this is not a line of work he should still continuing to be doing. That work, being a camp counselor. Now, this criticism is usually leveled at creative types and, well, myself included, a YouTuber. The camp counselor, if you're getting paid to do it, I guess that's a fine job, technically speaking. I don't know. That never comes up if he gets paid to do it, but here we are. I digress. As we learn, the director/character's name is Ethan, who has a crush on one of the other counselors named someone. I don't remember all their names. But we see our other counselors, like this Instagram girl named DD or something along those lines, or that's her Instagram name or whatever. Jason, who is our 24-something-year-old, meets with Ezra and some of the other campers as well, or counselors rather. And we have some basic setups alongside other characters like Chris and Shannon, and Jason and his down-the-line crush of Claire. So he begins to get suspicious that he was the one who was left behind, but the rest of the crew or she doesn't think much of it else other than it's just whatever. So, we have quite a few chats between counselors to build these little relationships throughout, with other characters like Bobby. There's quite a number of counselors here. So, as day turns to night, we see that the Instagram girl is the first to get slain. Well, spoiler alert, she ends up being one of the killers. This takes on a very much, what movie am I thinking of? One of the other classic thrillers that has the comedy tinge to it. It's not called Slash. But, whatever, I digress. I'm gonna get stunted and not be able to finish this review if I keep trying to think of the names of movies that this calls me of. So this was all just for an excuse for her to get out, essentially. So, as the story is being told by a campfire, Jason cuts them off and Claire joins him after the fact. And we see our other main character, the director, making out with Shannon as he is interfered by with Bobby, who now wants to do a little stunt of going over the fire with a bike. But now the real slashing begins as the quote-unquote vegan who is about to perhaps buckle under the pressures was the first to officially get slashed. And in this process, Mike also gets grabbed, but only grabbed off-screen. Spoiler alert, he's the second killer, apparently. So Jason visits the remaining guys that are out and about. And Jason sees Demi because she hadn't left yet, so now he's freaking out to get to the others, and he's trying to get to the phone. The phones don't work. And when he brings the crew with him, the body is already moved, or she had already moved in this case. So they run to the cars, seeing when one of the counselors say that it is indeed blood. So they run to the cars to see that all the cars have been cut. And thus, they all sort of make their way back to the cabins as Jason and Ari head out to also discover that the phone lines are also cut. And discover a cut head in the process. They tried, one of the counselors, I forget which one it is, uses a spirit board and essentially gains some level of intel, I guess. It's unclear, honestly, a little bit here, but whatever. So, as these things are unfolding, it begins to unfold that the rest of the counselors start to believe that Jason is the one responsible. He's the one somehow killing all the other counselors. He knew where the body was for one of them at the very most. So they tie him up. And Claire does not like this. So she eventually helps him out later when no one else is around. So they have a little chat just between the two of them. He tells her to keep running, but he wants to stay behind to make sure that that the remaining crew, despite their suspicions, are safe. This is when we officially discovered, at least in the context of the movie, that there are indeed two masked killers. So, Jason rejoins the others. Well, at least I think one of the other dead people. My notes are a little bit messy on this one, so I do apologize. So we do discover at this juncture, again, as I mentioned, who the killers were. The Instagram lit girl and the story guy are the two killers. This is the moment where that is officially revealed in the context of the movie. So anyways, Jason makes his way, looking suspicious as all hell with axe in hand, but he manages to come across Mike, and Mike knocks him out. But one of the other counselors, Ezra, is killed elsewhere. So, Chris is looking around and finds Bobby. So the killer's trying to stalk around for Chris, though, but he's not really getting an opportunity to do such, as Bobby calls out to the killer. And Mike has to now play pretend as he sort of, or at least tries to, but then gets caught on by Bobby, and then the two fight in there. Meanwhile, Dee Dee is the one who has Jason held hostage and is upset that her plan was all about just making her famous, or in this case, infamous. That was her whole reasoning for all of this. And she hates the idea that he's the one who's taking all the credit, that being Jason, everyone thinks it's him, as implied earlier. And the other killer mentioned how that was actually potentially a really good thing to sidestep, well, the guilt that would come with them just being the killers and not having any fallback. So they kind of lean in on that at this point. But the other killer isn't so lucky, as Bobby manages to kill the other one, and Claire manages to get to Jason and the Instagram killer. And from a scene way earlier in the movie where she was taught how to use a bow properly, she does so here to kill the Instagram killer, and the two have their little makeout session. And then, I guess, Bobby and is still alive, as well as the crush couple of the director, essentially, and those are our survivals. So a good chunk of our crew actually survived this movie, all things considered. So, as a directorial debut, I think it's only fair to again be as objective as possible here. And it does seem like this is more trying to play off as the more comical aspects of the classic killer, right, of the slasher variety. It's clearly taking up that umbrage, and I do think that it needs a little work on the pacing in terms of this. Also putting more of your characters, ideally, I think this is a pretty decent cast, all things considered. I mean, two among them were already killers, so, you have to reduce that, and then you have 4 survivors, and then you so that's, 6 characters, and then I don't remember how many were killed. So I want to say there were probably 8 counselors in total, so I think a total of 2 or 3 characters, if there were 3 other counselors that died, plus the 2 at the beginning. So a pretty big roster of characters, and I do feel like, at least in the more traditional sense, you have the cliches of, quote-unquote, the last girl, as it were, and it's very clear that this isn't going for that type of movie. That is very obvious, with how many survivors there clearly are. But, with him doing previous work on Stranger Things, I'm wondering if this is going to be his wheelhouse, if horror is going to be his wheelhouse. He clearly has a knack for acting here. So he placed himself in the movie, I would say. In terms of that, I would be inclined to say, don't always feel inclined to keep yourself as one of the main characters and / alive. Probably, you want to show some variety and give other people a spotlight of what they are capable of doing. outside of just being the director here. Other things to essentially, build off on. You can definitely miss some tropes of, like, for example, the cops actually arriving on the scene and then the killers have to deal with that whole situation. I feel like that's missing from this movie because you did do a good job of, or the director did do a good job of breaking the ways of communication / travel. That way, it would feel very isolated for our crew to essentially escape. But I do get the sense that only one of them, Claire, decides to go, and she ends up coming back anyway. So I do feel like there's always going to be that type of character, or maybe even more than one, that's going to want to keep going. So I would definitely plan for that type of character and what that can achieve. Maybe they do come back with the cops, and that's how you get that. That scene with said cop and the killers and whatnot. So just some extra things, elements. If you want to hit on some of the vintage cliches, that is actually among them. So yeah, this is very, as it implies, the very beginning, throwback. So we shall see what else this individual will do. I would probably say this is a smooth 6 out of 10. It could use a little tightening up, but overall I would say a pretty decent movie. And that's my review of Hell of a Summer. If you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head to my petition about smaller YouTubers, second to my PayPal, which can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. You can join, clap, shield, all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.